It's no secret that fighting games can be pretty hard to learn and have pretty terrible tutorials for anybody who's brand new to the genre. And while the tutorial does technically show you how to do some of these things, I think the way it's explained is missing a lot of context. With that in mind, here are 3 things that you should really know if you want to play DNF Duel. Number 1, guard cancel. Right off the bat, yes, the tutorial does tell you how to do guard cancel, but it's missing some pretty important things that you need to know to use this effectively in an actual game. Guard cancel takes 100 mana, which is not a small amount. That means you need to be looking at your opponent's mana as you're hitting them on block. If your opponent has 100 mana, try to implement more stagger buttons into your block strings. Certain characters can use their 2A to bait out guard cancel because 2A is actually plus enough that they won't get hit by it as it comes out. Another thing to keep in mind is that different characters have very different properties with their guard cancels. There are 3 things to take into consideration when looking at an opponent's guard cancel. How fast is it going to come out? How plus am I going to be if it hits me? And how far does it travel across the screen? Guard cancel can range from 18 to 23 frames of startup, which turns it from reactable to very difficult to react to in certain situations. Guard cancel also gives different amount of plus frames on hit depending on character. It can range from 0 with Ghost Blades to all the way up to plus 24 with Hitmans. It's really important to know, or at least sort of be able to feel out, how negative you're going to be if guard cancel hits you, and how positive you are if you hit the other person with it. The last important thing about guard cancel is the range. Guard cancel will go much different distances depending on the character you're using. While Ghost Blades is 0, it actually goes nearly half screen, which means he has a lot more ability to get out of guard break scenarios from people like Ranger. Characters like Striker and Berserker, on the other hand, have very shallow guard breaks and need to be a lot more particular about when they use it in an opponent's string. If you're looking for more specifics on the frame data of guard cancels, I put a link to Dustloop in the description. That's where I get all my frame data information from. But like I said, some people don't like looking at frame data obsessively, and you can kind of feel how plus or minus you are on guard cancel if you just play the game enough. The last thing to understand about guard cancel is that it is not safe. It is presented by the tutorial as a perfectly safe option, but you can conversion out of your string reactively if you react in time to see it. Certain characters like Hitman and Striker can also interrupt their moves with DP to stop the guard cancel from being effective. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, and I'm going to put the link to the other video that I made on guard cancel not being safe, so you can take a look at that if you're interested. But you should understand that it is not safe, and at a higher level, you will get punished for it. Number 2, instant overhead. The concept of an instant overhead isn't touched on at all in the tutorial, but it basically just means going from a low to an overhead attack which hits opponents even while block crouching instantly before they can react. Instant overhead really comes in 2 categories. It's Hitman and Berserker, who have access to it essentially all the time, and then everyone else who has access to it situationally. The core of a lot of Hitman's pressure depends on his ability to use instant overhead. Essentially, if you jump and then immediately do jump A, which is his machine gun blast, it will hit opponents while crouching and he can go into a combo from there. He can also use this as a bait, and he can also use it as a safe jump, which makes him an absolute nightmare to play against while he's on offense. Berserker's instant overhead is more universal, but still not completely. Essentially, if he is in frenzy, he can jump and use jump B, which is the sword swing, and he can hit certain characters while they're crouching. The characters he can hit are Crusader, Hitman, Vanguard, and Lost Warrior, which makes his offense against them a lot more effective. Other members of the cast have to be a little bit more creative with their use of instant overhead. Characters like Kunoichi and Dragon Knight have a lot of difficult mix-ups to get away from. Characters like Grappler, Swiftmaster, and Inquisitor can use conversion to get to an overhead, and other characters can't really use instant overhead at all. Using instant overhead setups effectively takes a good amount of labbing, so I would just go over to training mode and see what you can find in terms of very quick and hard to react to abilities that hit people while crouching. Start by using your character, jumping, immediately converting, and then hitting jump A, and just kind of see what you can find. You might be surprised who can do mix-ups in this way. Number 3, when to use motion inputs. DNF Duel has 2 ways to do special moves, motion inputs and easy inputs. Motion inputs are more traditional fighting game inputs like quarter circle forward, back, and dragon punch motion, whereas easy inputs are just directional buttons plus the magic button. They give you the same result, but not exactly the same. Anytime you do a motion input, you'll see one of 2 things pop up on screen. Either green letters or blue letters. Green letters mean that you've done the motion input and you're rewarded with a little bit of mana regeneration that you wouldn't have gotten if you did the directional input. Blue letters means you did a perfect motion input and you're rewarded with even higher mana generation. While you might think this is a reason to do motion inputs all the time, I actually wouldn't advocate for it. The way that I think about it is that if you're on offense, you should be doing motion inputs, and if you're on defense, you should be doing simple inputs. While you're on offense, you're going to be doing big combos that you can think about ahead of time, and you're going to need the mana generation to make sure that you land them. However, when you're on defense, the only thing that matters is how quickly you react and how quickly you can actually do the input and press the button. Play around with these inputs and see what feels good for you to do consistently. And that's it. Those are 3 tips that should be able to get you started that I don't think the tutorial does a good job going over. If you like this video, a couple of other ones will pop up in the corner if you want to check out my other stuff, and you can always like and subscribe as well. You can also go and follow me on twitch.tv/flowchartken. I'm actually streaming right now, so come check it out. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.